I want to tell you a story about a Black woman I met. We'll call Alice. When we talk about trauma, it's not just about what's happened in the past, it's about what the brain continues to relive. Two powerful concepts from neuroscience explain why: priming and kindling. Alice's story is a case in point example of this phenomena. Alice had moved to Mexico to escape the intensity of racism in the US, and as she had experienced many aggressions not only while growing up, but also within the workplace, I met Alice in my condo complex in Mexico, a neighbor who was shut down, would not acknowledge me or even let me pet her dog. And it wasn't until she met me through another Black woman also living in our complex that she even talked to me. During our first conversation, I was describing what I do for a living and talked about my work with Native American reservations and racial trauma. I used the example of being a victim of racism, of a hate crime, and how this initial trauma could become more exacerbated over time through priming and kindling. And that is what started out as, let's say, social anxiety could lead to more severe issues such as agoraphobia. Alice exclaimed, "Oh my God, that's exactly what happened to me." Alice went on to tell me that she had experienced racism her whole life. And when she worked in the men's corporate world in New York as a Black woman in finance, she had experienced, which was something so devastating, that she moved out of the country to recover and has been sequestered in her apartment, not wanting to leave the safety of her own four walls ever since. Alice began crying as she spoke to me, and I asked if she wanted a hug, and she allowed me to hold her, pouring her feelings out to me. I was honored to be there for her as a white woman in hopes that I was somehow redeeming the good people of the white race. Now we're friends, and together we go to the beach and we go out to clubs. And through this love and acceptance, Alice is gently reprogramming her brain from the long-term trauma loop and rebuilding a positive neural circuitry towards feeling loved and accepted. You see, priming happens when the brain becomes hypersensitive after an initial trauma. Think of a smoke detector that's been set on the highest sensitivity. It goes off at the smallest hint of smoke. And for Alice, as a Black woman in the US, she lived in fear daily, and her fear response could not turn off. Now, kindling goes one step further, just like striking a match again and again, making a fire easier to ignite. Repeated trauma strengthens the brain's neural stress circuits. And over time, it doesn't take much, a word, a look, a memory, to spark the full fight, flight, or freeze reaction. Together, priming and kindling create trauma loops, and when they get stuck, they can lead to chronic anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. And this is exactly what happened to Alice and many other people of color of all ages and races. The hopeful part is that the brain can be primed and kindled into trauma, but it can also be rewired into healing. Trauma-informed therapy like art therapy, safe relationships like I formed with Alice, and coping skills can help calm the amygdala and re-engage the prefrontal cortex and give the hippocampus a chance to place memories back in the past where they belong. So, understanding priming and kindling reminds us that healing's not just possible, it's biological. What has been wired through trauma can be rewired through safety, compassion, and creativity.